Summarizing and confirming technical information. A training session on effective communication in technical fields. The instructor, Dr. Sofia Chen, is providing guidance on summarizing and confirming technical information.
Welcome everyone to our session on summarizing and confirming technical information. As we've discussed, these techniques are essential for ensuring accurate understanding and preventing misunderstandings in technical discussions. But summarizing and confirming technical data requires specific skills and approaches.
First, it's important to recognize that technical information is often complex and dense. It may involve specialized terminology, intricate processes, or large datasets that can be challenging to process and retain. Therefore, effective summarizing in technical contexts requires careful selection and prioritization of information. You can't summarize everything, so you need to focus on capturing the most important elements. To do this, begin by identifying the key parameters or variables being discussed. What are the most important factors that influence the outcome? What metrics are being used to measure performance? Then focus on capturing the key values or trends related to those parameters. What are the current levels? Are they increasing or decreasing? Are they within acceptable limits? Next, connect those values or trends to specific implications. What does this data tell you about the system's performance, safety, or compliance? What actions might be needed based on these results? Finally, use clear, concise language that avoids technical jargon. Translate complex concepts into more accessible terms that the audience can easily understand.
Let me give you an example. Imagine a technical expert is presenting the results of an air emissions test. They say, the stack test results show that NOx emissions were 45 parts per million, SO2 emissions were 60 parts per million, and particulate matter was 18 milligrams per cubic meter. All parameters are within our permit limits, but NOx emissions show a slight upward trend compared to last quarter. Here's an effective summary. So, to summarize, our air emissions are currently within permitted limits, but NOx emissions have increased slightly compared to last quarter. Is that accurate?
Notice that the summary focused on the key parameters, the compliance status, and the trend, while omitting the detailed values for each parameter. It also used clear, accessible language. Now let's add another layer, confirming the implications and next steps.
The expert continues, given the upward trend in NOx, I recommend we conduct a more detailed inspection of the combustion system to identify any potential causes and implement preventive maintenance. Here's a more comprehensive summary and confirmation. So, to summarize, our air emissions are currently within permitted limits, but NOx emissions have increased slightly. As a result, you're recommending a more detailed inspection of the combustion system. Have I captured the key points and recommendations correctly?
This longer summary not only captures the data, but also the recommended action, creating a more complete understanding and ensuring everyone is aligned on next steps.
What if you're not familiar with the technical terminology being used? How can you summarize something you don't fully understand?
That's a common challenge, especially when working in new or highly specialized fields. The key is to focus on asking clarifying questions rather than pretending to understand. You might say, I'm not familiar with the term ppm. Could you briefly explain what that means in this context? Or, I want to make sure I understand the relationship between NOx emissions and the combustion system. Could you elaborate on that?
Asking these questions not only clarifies your understanding, but also demonstrates that you're actively engaged with the message and that you value accuracy. Most technical experts will appreciate your willingness to ask for clarification rather than making assumptions.
You might also ask the speaker to provide a brief overview or executive summary of the information before diving into the technical details. This gives you a framework for organizing your notes and identifying key points.
What about situations where there's conflicting data or disagreement among experts? How do you summarize complex technical information when there's no clear consensus?
That's an excellent question that highlights the importance of objectivity and neutrality in summarizing. When there are conflicting viewpoints or uncertain data, your role is to accurately represent all perspectives without taking sides or making judgments. You might say, "So, it sounds like there are different interpretations of this data. Some experts believe it indicates X, while others argue it suggests Y. Is that a fair representation of the different view?"
Then you can ask for clarification about the evidence supporting each viewpoint and the potential implications of each interpretation. The goal is to create a clear summary of the different perspectives, not to resolve the disagreement yourself. In these situations, it's particularly important to use neutral language and avoid loaded terms that might imply bias. Focus on describing the data and the reasoning behind each perspective, rather than evaluating the validity of each claim. Finally, let's discuss how cultural differences might affect summarizing and confirming technical information. In some cultures, direct questioning or summarizing might be seen as challenging the speaker's expertise or authority. In these contexts, it's important to be particularly respectful and use more indirect language. For example, instead of saying, "So are you saying that this approach won't work?" you might say, "I want to make sure I understand the potential challenges with this approach. Could you elaborate on any limitations we should consider?" Similarly, some cultures value explicit agreement more than others. In these contexts, it's important to seek clear confirmation that everyone is on the same page before moving forward. In other cultures, it might be more appropriate to rely on non-verbal cues and implied agreement. If you sense that someone is uncomfortable with direct questioning, you might simply summarize the key points and then pause to allow them to offer any corrections or clarifications. The key is to be mindful of cultural differences and adapt your communication style accordingly. When in doubt, err on the side of being more respectful and indirect, rather than risking offense or miscommunication.
To summarize our discussion, effective summarizing and confirming of technical information involves focusing on key parameters, using clear language, seeking explicit verification, and adapting to different communication styles. By mastering these techniques, you can enhance comprehension, build rapport, and prevent misunderstandings in even the most complex technical and international contexts. What specific technique will you commit to using to improve your summarizing and confirming skills in your next technical discussion?